Lunch and Learn is an MFG radio network production brought to you by GIE Media's Manufacturing Group. We highlight some of the latest innovations in manufacturing and design to help you gain insights to the newest products and technologies in the medical, aerospace, defense, and electric vehicle manufacturing industries to keep you ahead of the competition. Hello and welcome to the latest Lunch and Learn from GIE Media's Manufacturing Group. I am Jake Kaufman, the senior editor, and we are happy to be joined today by SMW Autoblok. Now, SMW Autoblok is a work holding company focused on achieving customer goals and expectations with the highest quality products and services. SMW Autoblok combines stock standard products with a highly trained sales, service, and engineering team to consistently provide the ideal work holding solutions for customers across a wide variety of industries. And if we're talking to SMW Autoblok, that means we are talking to the president and CEO, Larry Robbins. Larry, once again, thank you so much for your time. Always appreciate listening to you and definitely looking forward to it today.
Jake, thanks so much as always. I totally appreciate these opportunities. If anybody that knows me well knows I love to hear myself speak. So, but with that being said, I'm going to switch it up a little bit today. In the past, I've talked about all different kinds of work holding and different things we do as a company. I'm going to I always start these with a review of what SMW Autoblok does. We're a full service, full line work holding company. And when I say that, most people know, Autoblok started as Autoblok SPA back in the 40s. And we were a chuck company. When I started work for this company, we had about a 40-page catalog that had 12 different kinds of chucks and a couple of different kinds of cylinders, and that's what we sold. Now we're a company that provides work holding for every different scenario within the industry. And just as a quick overview, I'm going to present to you a little, just an idea of what we do and what we do best as a company. And sorry, I'm a little technically challenged. If everybody can see my screen, I'm just going to do a quick overview of who we are and what we do. SMW Autoblok, again, sorry, our presentations are generated by our parent company, and we duplicate them in the United States, and they provide them in PDF format. I usually ask for the base PowerPoint format. On this one, they're on vacation for the month of August, totally different scenario. But just to give you an overview, we use the word worldwide leader and manufacturer, or worldwide leading manufacturer of work holding. We offer more standard work holding components than any other company in the world. I know that's a large claim. We can prove it day in, day out. Our turning catalog alone at this point is about 450 pages. Our stationary catalog is about 300 pages. And we have a myriad of other catalogs that show different types of technology we offer. But just to give you all a little background, Autoblok was born in 1942. We were literally got into chucks almost by mistake. We were a large subcontractor to Fiat. Our owner's father, who started the company, Domenico Bronzino, started the company in 1942 as a supplier to Fiat in Torino, Italy. If anybody knows what Torino is, they're the automotive capital of Europe. And at the same time, they also were a large manufacturer of utensils and utensils for food and beverage. It's a very interesting country. Everybody thinks of Italy as Milan, and Milan is fashion. Well, it's a very small part of what they provide. It's a very industrial country. But their largest customer came to them and said, we have a problem. We have all these American chucks, and we can't get spare parts for them, and we don't understand. Can you reverse engineer this? So long story short, we reverse engineered a bunch of parts. We found out we could make a better product. We made a product. We introduced it. Fiat bought the first ones, and from that point forward, we became a chuck manufacturer. And the rest is pretty much history. Over the last bunch of years, we've established locations all over the world. In the 60s, they started mainly in France, Germany, England, and the United States was handled through an importer. In 1993, we acquired SMW Systems in Germany, which literally expanded our horizons tenfold. We went from just a standard chuck and engineered chuck manufacturer to chuck steady rests, front-mounted pneumatic chucks for the oil tube and services industry, any conceivable combination of rotating work holding we made. And then over the past few years, we've made many acquisitions of old-time companies in Europe Mario Pinto was one of our first acquisitions after SMW in Germany. Mario Pinto at one point was the largest manufacturers of specialty and odd standard work holding in Europe. We purchased Pinto, and ever since we've switched Pinto from, we still make special chucks and some standard manual product, but Pinto's best known now for their live and driven tooling products as well as static tooling. That's imported into the United States currently by Von Ruden Manufacturing in Buffalo, Minnesota. If you were to need information, you're welcome to reach out to me. After that, we acquired OML SPA, which became our stationary work holding products and was our entrance into automation in milling. We acquired Tobler, and if anybody knows anything about ID clamping, Tobler is the company that invented the ID mandrel and the grease arbor. Tobler went through a bunch of different acquisitions. They went from Sandvik to a couple of other companies, were marketed by Rome at one point, and then finally, about 4 years ago or 5 years ago, our French subsidiary purchased the assets of Tobler, and we market it worldwide. And last but not least was a company called Mag Autoblok. It was actually Tecnomagnete before, and Tecnomagnete is the company that invented electromagnetic work holding for not only lifting, but for machining, for heavy lifting, for quick mold and die change. Tecnomagnete, we represent the portion of the product that's part of the machining industry, that's part of our stationary product line. And our newest product line, which is actually not even on this list, was created from within the German subsidiary, is SMW Electronics. SMW Electronics, we have now become a company that not only makes a full line of standard hydraulic, pneumatic, and manual work holding, but now we make a full line of from hybrid or basically a standard chuck that has sensors built into it that monitor jaw position, grip force, very basic functions, jaw movement, all the way now to a fully electric piece of work holding equipment that allows you to take a four-jaw chuck. And now, because each axis is independent, we can now create movements where we offset parts, envision having an assortment of castings or forgings. And anybody that does casting or forging work knows from the first part that comes out of a casting mold or a forging die to the last part, there's wear along the way. Well, in the past, people would load parts, and every once in a while they find out they had a bad part. They probe the base part, and oh, lo and behold, the parts are wearing, or the die is wearing. So we have to adjust our offsets or our setups. Envision this now. I probe a part. I find out that at 273 degrees, I'm off by 7 thousandths. Sends a message back to the controller. The controller sends a message to Chuck. It offsets itself 7 thousandths at 273 degrees. So now what would have turned out to be a bad part or a rework is now a good part made from a bad base part. And I could bore you with all the other semantics, but just to give you a quick overview, we have offices in 70 countries around the world. Directly owned subsidiaries, I believe we're up to 27 now. Everybody else is an agent. So the beauty of that is it gives us the ability to have service all over the world. So if you buy a product in the United States and you have a sister company in Poland, we have an office in Poland. So we have support worldwide for products that are manufactured. Our base product is manufactured in Europe. And this is not even a complete list of all of our directly owned subsidiaries. We have manufacturing of base product in Italy, Germany, the UK, and France. What I hastened to mention when I talked about work holding was we bought a company. One of our last acquisitions was actually a company called Autoblok in the UK, and Autoblok was best known for their design and build of aerospace special fixturing. Well, now they've expanded that into setup stations, and that'll be part of my main focus today, which is not only do we sell standard work holding for automotive, off-highway, industrial equipment. When I say industrial equipment, it's more job shop related, aerospace, space, oil and gas. We are the largest manufacturer, like I said, of standard work holding systems in the world. We've also are an innovator. New technology is what keeps us growing and driving. I always say you're either growing or you're dying. And growth for us is not only acquisition, it's creation of new product consistently. We don't just rest on our laurels. We set the standard for the rest of the industry for quality, for technology, and for reliability. You'll see as we go through, modular systems. Modular has become a very generic term. When we talk about modular now, We talk about the ability to take a base product, make it very flexible, and allow you to take a standard base product and put special touching features on top. So what that allows you to do now is create a special work holding complement for your specific needs. But if that job goes away and you need to use that work holding for another job, we can now build different tooling, or you can, and adapt that to your next job, which gives you the flexibility. Accuracy, repeatability goes without saying. Constant grip force, and you can tell this was written in Europe because constant is spelled with an N, not just an OSTANT. A lot of our new product not only is sealed, you'll see most of our product comes under the moniker of Proofline. Proofline is a sealed product in our industry, in our company. And you'll see any new development is a sealed. And when I say sealed, it's not just a surface seal, it's not just a seal over a jaw box. It is a hermetically sealed product that can take up to 1,500 psi blasts directly at the sealing surface and not breaching the internals of the chuck. A lot of our chucks have gone to oil bath, which allows you to have constant lubrication throughout the entire process. Energy savings. Hydraulic and pneumatic power are very expensive. Electric power is the cheapest version of this. And by electrifying a lot of our product, or electrically monitoring a lot of our product, we reduce not only energy costs, but setup time. Our goal is set up in 0 time. And the way we're about to accomplish that is what I'm about to get into in this presentation. And it'll explain more about eMotion. With that being said, pardon me for switching screens. And we're going to start out with what most people refer to as setup reduction, which is a 0-point system, which is what we call our APS, automatic positioning system, or 0-point system. You see many different versions of this out in the industry. Ours is a little bit different. We have a harder surface than all of our competition. We have air sensing and air blow off as standard. We can operate at as little up to as little as 6 bar of pressure. We use a 3-pin system instead of a 2-pin system or a ball bearing system, which is what most of our competition uses. We have the ability to cross-load competitors' products onto ours from either a single pin system on multiple axes to a 4-pin system, like more like you're used to seeing in like a 5th axis product or a Lang product. We have a competitive product, but we have some distinct advantages. But what you'll see is a few things. We have twice the cross section in our pins of any of our competition, or not the fragility of a ball bearing surface or a diamond pin surface, which allows you to now get more rigidity, more cycle, and more grip force. We have 5-micron repeatability as standard. Automatic cleaning function is standard. Air sensing is standard. Stroke control is standard. We can do a lot of things our competition offers as options in our standard-based product. With that being said, I'm going to show you another video that basically highlights our ability now to take automation across an entire process, setup reduction across an entire process. You know, people talk about, again, setup reduction, and you'll see some companies will just refer to they're the largest at one part of the product line. We offer more kinds of setup reduction and quick changeover than any of our competition in the world, bar none, and we prove it with this video. Not only can we quick change jaws automatically, we can quick change parts automatically. We make a full line of pneumatic and electric grippers now. We make quick jaw change systems for just about every product, but we have the ability now to take standard product and auto load that standard product to not only take the error out of having to probe every part that goes in, because once you zero your base system out on these, whether it be a chuck, a mandrel, a collet chuck, or a milling fixture, depending on the system you choose, you have the ability to create a setup reduction or quick draw change over an entire spectrum of product. We make 3 separate chuck changing systems. We make what you just saw as an automatic system. It was literally originally created for our own use. And we had a customer to come in to see a demo and asked if they could purchase it, and it became a commercial product. Our original chuck changing system or chuck switching system was our uh, German product, which is our a different product, and that is either open center or closed center. It's a manually actuated, and manual load and unload can be done robotized or otherwise. And at the same time, it allows for you to get the most use and the most effective use of your time. I try not to use presentations and videos that much, and I know that's kind of unfair because I do a lot of hand puppets, but I think that a picture tells a lot of it, but the descriptive part of it and the ability to be cross-functional. Not only do we have the ability now to change pallets on a machine, you have to think automation and setup reduction is not just a 0-point system or a chuck changing system or a chuck switching system or however you want to refer to these things. You know, it's all started with a basic product that, you know, we all started with manual chucks, then we went to hydraulic chucks, then we went to pneumatic chucks. And then we had a problem. Machines got very quick. People want to do multifunction, and then multitasking machines came out, which literally became the reason people started creating setup reduction components. But where I started to go with this is setup reduction could be something as simple as going from a machining center with a single pallet to the next machine having a pallet pool or an external setup station. The whole idea between economy of scale and setup reduction and reduction in setup time is to have your spindle turning and cutting parts. All your setup time should be done externally or offline with the ability to shuttle it in on a very accurate, repeatable system. You know, in the past, you would go from one fixture to another or one part in the fixture to another, and there was always some kind of setup or probing or loading or confirmation needed. Well, now envision this. I can go from manufacturing a part on a 0-point system, and that 0-point system not only has to be used in milling, I can use it in turning too, because we make a cross platform that is applicable to turning as well as milling. We're one of the few quick change chuck manufacturers that gives you the ability to have an open center or a closed center. We make 2 different versions of that, like I said, our original version, and now our new TMX version, which is a TMS version, which is from our French subsidiary. That's a simpler system that's less expensive with less moving parts. So simplified sometimes is better. But what it allows you to do is envision this. You have a job that you start out with a 3-jaw chuck. Well, your op 20 is a mandrel. Well, your op 30 is a collet chuck. Well, okay, now I either have to A, do a breakdown in the middle of my process, or B, I have to have the ability to go from one chuck to the other without having to re-indicate all the time. With our chuck switching systems or our chuck changing systems, we have the ability to go from a 3-jaw chuck to a manual chuck to a 4-jaw chuck to a mandrel to a collet chuck back to the original 3-jaw chuck, never changing anything at the front end of the machine. And it's a lot more complicated than that, but it repeats within 5 to 10 microns, guaranteed. So there's no need to re-indicate every time you change systems. All the way up to now, we have an electronically monitored system that allows you to have a full line of sensors built into your, not only your machine, but your work holding, that can now monitor what work holding implement is in your spindle, the grip force that you're exerting, the end position of your jaws, the finish position of your jaws. We can go all the way to torque and temperature. What it allows you to do is now, where in the past, everything was setup sheets, operator intervention, and hopefully you had a job pack that followed your job that was complete. Envision this. Fast forward 100 years now to where we are. And when I started in this industry, NC was just really becoming a thing. I liken the technology difference now in work holding from the difference in a Bridgeport to a full 5-axis machine tool. That's the effect this technology is having on our industry. We've created a full product category now of electronics and automation that allow you not only to monitor your work holding and your performance, but at the same time make assure that you have the right parts going into your machine. So through the use of an RFID tag or multiple sensors, I can not only now and something that we can do that no one else in the world can do is over an air gap with no attaching wires, transmit data and energy across simultaneously across an air gap to now power your work holding, transmit data back and forth. So now I can give you real-time reporting data. When I find my perfect setup, I can now store that report. And every time I duplicate that setup, all I do is load that report into my program. It'll backfeed into your machine directly from our unit, from our control unit. And it'll allow you now to have predictable, reliable, repeatable setups. The biggest challenge we face in our industry is we have a myriad of technology. You know, you go into some shops and there's machines that were built in the 50s and 60s. You go into some shops, there's machines that are older than 3 to 5 years old. The constant in our industry is a mix of all. The beauty of this product is we have the ability to adapt not only to brand new technology, but old technology. We can take an old manual machine and give you electronic monitoring. It's not going to create automatic movement, but it's going to give you predictable, reliable information to create repeatable setups. The whole gist of this conversation is there's a few things you have to look for in your work holding, or any product for that fact. You have to look for flexibility. Flexibility is the key. And poor Jake Kaufman hears me say this in every presentation 75 times. I've only said it twice in this presentation. If your work holding is not flexible and adaptable to multiple jobs, choose a vendor that is, because there's a lot of selections out there. And I tell this to our salespeople and our customers. We're not the only work holding company in the world. Do yourself a favor. Look at all the things that are available out there. And I know the owners of our company would have a stroke, but I'm a big believer in you educate your workforce. I would rather say to somebody, listen, that's not in our wheelhouse, but one of my competitors does this much better than I do. And I always truly enjoy the look on someone's face when I bring up a competitor. I'm willing to give them a name and a phone number to call. And I've had customers say, aren't you worried you're going to lose your business? I was like, no, I'm not worried at all. I'm sharing information with you to be a good partner or a good technical advisor and expert. Because I think it's easy for someone to sell a product to someone. It's hard to create a relationship. You know, if you haven't figured it out at this point, before I was president of this company, I started this company as a regional manager back in the 80s as a rep. Became a direct employee in the early 2000s, and held a myriad of positions within our company. I went from regional manager to sales manager to national sales manager to VP of sales to president. It's a great way to end my career. It's been an honor to serve this industry. I always say I love giving back to an industry that, put my children through college, moved me around the country multiple times, and at the same time, gave me the ability to retire. I look forward to the next generation taking this even further because, to be honest with you, I've been saying this lately. I wish I was 20 years younger so I could see what's happening. And I'm so glad I'm not 20 years younger because in 4 years, I'm done, guys. So to be honest with you, I'm truly looking forward to the next chapter of my life. I hope that if we've come into contact in the past or we come into contact in the future, your feeling is that I was a better advisor than the salesman. And I challenge every one of you to go to your suppliers and ask them for help. Ask them for the best solution. It might not be the solution you're using now. It might not be a solution they provide. I've always said, generally, when people ask me a question, I realize they know more than I do. And a lot of time, the question is just to test the water to see if I'm going to just shoot them an answer. I built a career on going, I don't know, but I'll get back to you. And I always do. With that being said, if you'd like more information on work holding, period, setup reduction, electronics and manufacturing, we offer a full line of automation components from standard pneumatic grippers all the way up to one of the first electric grippers that has not only the ability to be powered wirelessly, which means the biggest limitation in automation now or in gripping technology is not the gripper. It's the ability to not have a clip that connects a pneumatic line to a gripper that powers the unit. And every time you rotate, you're limited to between 300 and 270 to 300 degrees of rotation, because otherwise you start snapping and breaking clips. Envision now I have a inductive coupler sending unit on a base unit in a robot or wherever, receiving unit in my robot arm or my gripper or my work holding component. and I transmit it across that air gap. And the only thing that will interrupt that is putting a steel block between, or a steel sheet between, magnetic energy, and that's it. You can transmit through Mylar, plastic, air gaps. But again, it gives you predictable quality, it gives you predictable setups, it gives you the ability now to be not only an informed consumer, but an informed supplier, and be more competitive and have an advantage over your competition by implementing new technology. And the other suggestion I always make is, most companies make the mistake of, you talk to the man who buys the product, or the manager of the department, or the president of the company. In a lot of circumstances, they make a decision, this is the way we're going to go. And then you're challenged with, okay, the boss said this is what we're doing. I don't like the color of the box. I don't like the color of the insert package. Whatever the case may be, I always say, if you're going to try and promote new technology in any manufacturing environment, any company worth its salt wants you to start at the shop floor level. I want to sell the guy that's going to use this before I sell the guy that's going to buy this. Because if you don't get a buy-in from the shop floor to the top floor, you're going to fail miserably. And with that being said, if you need any additional information on anything I've discussed today, or anything you have an interest in moving forward, you can reach us multiple ways. You can send smoke signals, but the easiest way to get us is through our website, is www.smwautoblock.com. Or I'm happy to give you two other ways. You can get hold of me directly by emailing lrobbins, ROBBINS, at smwautoblock.com. Calling my cell phone, it's 313-520-0737. Jake, with that being said, that's the end of my presentation. I'm getting close to time, and I'm willing to answer any questions that we can with the few minutes we have left.
Awesome. So, Larry, Isabel does have a question about your holders with sensors. She wants to know, how do you review the data? Where is the output? And do you have any examples that you'd be willing to share?
Unfortunately, the examples we would share are proprietary, and I'll tell you why they're proprietary. We write the reports for people. We formulate the reports. And if you have specific needs, I can get you some very generic examples, yes. We customize it to the customer application. We don't store it. We ask you what information you want to have. We don't touch it. We don't evaluate it. We don't store it. That's your information. We never see it. We just give you the ability through R&D to provide the information you see as necessary. And that doesn't mean that's all the information you can get. So Isabella, just to answer your question, if you have anything, please feel to reach out. We have reps all over the country. We have direct regional people in every region. Feel free to reach out and I can point you in the right direction. But just to give you an idea, Isabella, it's earth-shattering. Seeing it work, I'm like a 6-year-old. The first time I saw this technology 10 years ago when we started inventing this, I must have asked 35 times, do it again. And the guy looked at me and goes, this isn't a kid's toy. I was like, oh, it's a kid's toy, all right. It's my kid's toy. I said, I'm bringing this thing home. I'm going to play with it till I can break it. And I broke the first one. And interestingly enough, the automation and electronics continues every day. We see something new. To the point now we're monitoring movement on steady rests. We're monitoring movement on tail stocks. We're monitoring assembly lines, and you'd be shocked at how many times people have parts that look similar. We could put what you would consider an RFID tag, but it's a sensor on your fixture, and one on the line that's going by. And we could tell you, oh my God, you put the wrong fixture in, before you make a bad part or run a tool into a fixture and destroy your spindle. So Isabel, again, the easiest part of the answer is get a hold of us. We'll walk you through the process, and I think you'll be impressed.
Awesome. She agrees too that the shop floor can be a playground. So with that being said, Larry, obviously a massive thank you once again to SMW Autoblok. You're truly a leader in manufacturing, which is why you will be a member on our panel for the Leaders in Manufacturing Roundtable coming up in October. Definitely looking forward to that. But thank you so much for your time today, sir, and I'm sure we'll be talking soon.
Everyone, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time, and I really appreciate the time you spent with us today. Have a great week. Thanks, Jake.
You can listen to all of our episodes of Manufacturing Matters and Lunch and Learn podcast from the MFG Radio Network on Spotify, Apple Music, and on our websites, today'smedicaldevelopments.com, aerospacemanufacturinganddesign.com, defenseandmunitions.com, and evdesignandmanufacturing.com.